All right, y'all. We are back in the building, and we got to discuss last night's episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac. We're on what, season 8, episode 9. It was called Hard Conversations. So I'm trying to figure out how to rate this episode specifically because I did feel like there was a concerted effort to give this episode some real substance and impact. And I did feel like they achieved their goal. Did you guys feel like they achieved their goal? I kind of felt like they did, but I guess the dilemma that I'm having is it is it too little too late, right? And what I mean by that is we've had a season so far that has felt so disjointed that and disjointed by the women involved. You know what I'm saying? Because we know that we're watching a show with a bunch of women who don't like each other. They don't even like each other that they so much that they can barely speak to half the cast, right? And I did also watch Giselle on Watch What Happens Live last night, and she seems extremely unapologetic about her stance in not speaking to, either Candace or Wendy. So it just doesn't look like there's a future of reconciliation for the group whatsoever. Although next week we will see a conversation happen between Candace and Robin, but in the grand scheme of things, I doubt that things go well at all. So, in terms of our hope that this group has a little bit of camaraderie or fun, I think it will always be separate fun. And I just don't know that we'll ever go back to what we knew of Potomac from years past. And it almost makes me wonder, did Potomac already peak? Answer that below in the comment section. I'm going to give this episode a solid 8. I felt like, again, there was an effort to make this episode about something. And the impact on me as a man, I feel like was pretty significant. So I have to give them props for tackling an issue that I do feel like is relevant, is prevalent, and surprising. Not necessarily surprising per se, but just it's disappointing. I would is probably the better way that I would put it. But we'll touch on that when we get to it. So that's my rating. Let me know what you guys will rate it in the comments down below. Did this episode make you feel any differently about Potomac? Did it give you any hope for Potomac for the rest of the season? Or do you feel like kind of how I feel like it's almost a little bit too little too late? I mean, of course, there's always room for opportunity and growth and for them to turn the ship around, but just are you even interested in this point? That's the question. Or are you stressed, sort of hate watching it like I've been doing for most of the season? Like it almost feels like, oh God, what are they gonna? I mean, how are they gonna traumatize me today? You know what I'm saying? That's how it feels. Anyway, nonetheless, we are finally back from our years-long trek to Austin. Did it not feel like we were on Lord of the Rings and we were traveling through the Shire? You know what I'm saying, or whatever the desert wasteland that the people on Lord of the Rings were traveling through. Did it not feel like that? Not to mention a Lord of the Rings movie, which is about 3 to 4 hours long anyway. I just felt like we were in Austin for years. Okay, so we are finally back. And I'm sorry to the good people of Austin, it is not your fault. But in terms of fabulosity, there just didn't seem to be a lot of that down to the Austin. And I just feel like, I mean, I'm missing some fabulosity. I want fabulosity, and I'm just not getting it here. Anyway, Karen and Ray are under the gazebo, and she's annoyed with him because when she called after she got her, information from the cardiologist, she wanted to talk to her man, and he was a little snippy. These are, regular married people problems, you know what I'm saying? And so they get kind of move past that pretty quickly. And, Karen is letting us know that she's having her PAVE event. Now, PAVE is an organization that is dedicated to, I'm assuming, helping or providing aid to women who have experienced intimate abuse or I think that's probably the safest way to put it on YouTube, right? Mia and Gordon. Now, this to me was part of was an I don't want to say an interesting scene with Mia, Gordon, Robin, and Juan. I didn't mind this double date scene because I did feel like it informed us a bit more about Mia. as well as about Juan in this situation with the woman at the hotel, if any one of you are interested out there about this subject, because I know we have beat this horse ragged and it is now another year later. Okay. Did you realize that? It's a whole year later. Did you know? So anyway, they go to the cooking class, and Juan is interesting because it's interesting that they recorded this. He's on the phone. We don't see him, but we hear him. And it almost sounds like he's pleading with someone on the other end of the line about some information about a job. And that's pretty real too. I'm sure being out of work is probably a very scary thing, but I also think that that is probably one of the reasons why we are seeing a lot more of Juan. I think that if Robyn was to come back, I feel like somebody probably said, we're going to need to see more of Juan. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, having the men as a part of the mix is a big help to the show, but I don't feel like he's there to really mix it up as much as he's there via obligation. Okay. Uh, i.e., Robyn, you might be out of a job if your man don't show up and talk about this situation willingly in some way, shape, or form. And so, being that he is without a job, it would make sense that he is there. In my mind, that's how it all worked based on what we tend to know about how production works, right? Allegedly. Okay. So we learned that Gordon is cooking more at the home because they no longer have their nanny or their chef. And I do respect that level of transparency. I think that Mia could venture into Monica territory with her openness with regard to, lifestyle changes, not in the reality Von Tease way, but I guess more so in the just, hey, I'm putting it out there. This is where we are. And I feel like that's probably the smartest thing to do, right? Um, Robyn, we learned, is opening a franchise called Glow 30. I did actually look into that, and I was actually pretty intrigued because they do these like I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's like micro needling under the eyes areas for people that have like, circles under their eyes, which I actually do. So I was like, that's fascinating. So I did go into the details of how much a franchise costs, and it's probably around, I think from my research, it was about 219,000 to about 350,000 or so to start. So that's not a small chunk of change. And so I'm assuming Robyn has maybe done, pretty well with her finances from where she used to be up until this point. So that may be the smart play, Robyn. I mean, med spas and beauty labs or whatever they call are really all the rage right now. So I don't necessarily see this as a bad move, and you do want to have some level of security because we ain't heard not hide nor hair about these hats, these satin hats no more. So I don't know if that's still going on or not, and I don't see them wearing it on the show. So y'all let me know. I mean, because I never did I never was able to place my order. Okay, because it seemed like whenever the off season came, it won't no hats. So anyway, Mia and Gordon have taken a look at the paperwork and they decided that, the Glow 30 is a good franchise to invest in or whatever like that. They do recap the Austin trip, and Mia relays that she thought that Juan's story sounded crazy like the rest of the world. Okay, like the rest of the world. And, Mia wants to know more about it. And Juan is like, well, what else is there to tell? Okay. Mia's like, well, honey, did you really put your credit card down for this woman? And he's like, "Yeah," and Mia's like, "But you can do that over the phone, okay? You can do that over the phone. You do realize that, and I guess in a lot of the calamity and chaos of it all, I really didn't think about the number of ways that a credit card could be provided for a hotel room. But Juan, being the gentleman that he is, decided that he would just truck it on down to the hotel. Now, you know, Juan says that he paid for the room. She says she got him. I don't know what that meant. She went to the casino and somebody stole her purse or wallet, so she couldn't pay for the room and she couldn't get money sent from Canada, so he put it down on his card. And that's when, Mia reiterates that you could do that over the phone. Juan says that he went to the hotel. So my question is, did she just come down here without a hotel room? Because I mean, I know that typically whenever I've made hotel reservations, I've typically reserved it with a card, right? Then they may ask for a card for incidentals. But my thing is, doesn't that usually happen upon check-in? Did she come down here and immediately hit the casino and then try to check into a hotel, or did she not have a reservation at all? I'm a little confusion about this because you don't have no friends at home, family members that's got a credit card that you can use. I can think of a plethora of people that I could call for a hotel for, for if I was stuck. You know what I'm saying? And I know everybody ain't got friends that maybe got it like that. And I ain't even talking about friends that got it like that, like that. I'm just talking about people that I would never try to put anybody in this position, to be honest with you. But I just feel like it's just something about this story that just don't make sense to me. And I know I'm trying to make when to me when it don't make sense, it ain't making sense. And ain't no way ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So anyway, well, Mia says, well, okay, well, next time, child. And Juan says it won't be a next time. I'm a grown man and made a mistake. Okay. Mia says in her confessional that it's the same story that Robin gave. So clearly they practiced this story. And I was like, probably. And so Mia then reveals that she has opened up to Robin about, what happened with their attorney. I think the attorney ended his life after the money was lost with the company or something like that. And Mia feels like if they had tried a different approach, then it could have changed the outcome, and it's creating tension within her and Gordon's marriage. Now, the interesting thing about this tension between Mia and Gordon is we don't see it on the screen, right? So I think we're only relying on Mia's version of the story for this to play out. Now, whether or not that's because they have 8 cast members and they can't really get all of that in, I do feel like in order to tell the complete story, I need to see these moments of tension because I just feel like it completes the story, right? So I need for them. I know that they're putting down the breadcrumbs production wise, but I need to see it in action for me to really understand the magnitude of what is going on between Mia and Gordon. And I don't see it on the screen. Whenever they're on the screen, they seem fine. And couples can mask things very well, but I'm just saying that, I think TV is a show and tell medium. So I think it would be advantageous for production to show us, okay, those moments of tension because we're not really seeing them. We've heard about them with the therapist. We've heard about the stories with the other girls, but we've not seen a fight of any sort. Um, Remember when Phaedra and Apollo were, headed for divorce? We saw that tension. Quad and Greg, we saw Dr. Gregory, we saw that tension. I think Simon and Tamara on OC, we saw that tension. So we just don't see it here. Cecil and Simone, they were about to go down that road. We saw the tension. Because we haven't seen it yet, but maybe it's coming. And actually, we do know in the trailer we are going to see it coming. So I let me step back on that one and just hold my horses for a second. Because we did see something in the mid-season trailer, so maybe they're waiting to give us that. All right, over to Wendy's. She sits down to talk to her mom post hospital visit. This conversation was also very interesting. Um, we learned that Wendy's mom had an elective surgery and she ended up back in the hospital because of a complication with that elective surgery. So, does this reframe how you guys see the situation with Wendy's mom? I guess really not to a certain degree because anytime I think a parent has to go to the hospital or a child, I mean, I think it could be cause for concern. So I guess you just never know. I do want to know what procedure it was, since it was elective. Anyway, but that's just me being nosy. Um, Wendy then brings up the situation with Ineka and that she apparently called Lebe, okay? Lebe of the BBL variety. And mom barely remembers Abby's friend at first. And I was like, maybe it was the wine mama was drinking. I don't know. Miss Mama didn't seem to be no bit concerned about any of these shenanigans that Wendy was talking about. Anyway, Um, I think her name is Susan. Miss Susan. Is that a anyway? Wendy's mom says she looked at Levy like a daughter and had a conversation and said it's very hard to make a friend, but easy to make an enemy. Why do I get the sense that Wendy's mom talks in parables? Like like it's high level parables, and maybe just more high level than I'm accustomed to everyday speech, right? So maybe it could be a cultural thing. I don't really know. But I understand it, but in my mind, it's like, okay, for simplicity, right? When I'm having a conversation, it's like, can I say this the most simplistic way, or can I say this in a metaphor? In a metaphor, you might miss the point a little bit, but I think that's probably more on me as the viewer. Okay, I need to level up my thinking. But when I'm making notes and I'm listening, and I'm like, what is she talking about? There was an easier way to say that. But again, that's me. That's me and my simple thinking. Okay. Anyway, so when Wendy mentions the shrine, Wendy's mom says the only shrine she knows of is the one in downtown Baltimore. But if she ever meets Ineka, she will pray for her. And Wendy warns that Ineka may take that the wrong way. And I would probably agree with Wendy is that Miss Susan probably just needs to look the other way. Okay. Never mind NECA. All right. That's the best I can come up with in order to rectify this situation, because NECA is scared of the woman's prayers. So I just would say leave it alone. Okay. Leave it alone. Let it be. And Miss Mama, you just enjoy your wine and the kids, and not pay no never mind to this crazy show. Okay. Jizzy is out driving with Grace, Jizzy being Giselle, and she takes her to a self-defense class. And you know, I think the interesting thing here, outside of the fact that I think that this is worthwhile to do and to know, for women to know, especially in light of what we're going to talk about later with the episode. Um, Interesting scene, but to me, I lost interest, and it seems as though Grace did as well when Jizzy decides that she needs to FaceTime Jason. Because this is one of those other reality romances that we just don't believe to be real. And I'm sorry, I just don't. I didn't believe the Martell and Sheree of it all. I I don't know. I just question some of these fly by night relationships, these oh, it's so convenient that you live out of town relationships. So that would explain why we never see you outside of the phone, and maybe one appearance for the year, for the season, and then boop poof, they're gone. And then y'all been dating for a year, but y'all ain't really serious and calling each other nothing. It just always strikes me as cockamamie. You know what I'm saying? Allegedly, right? So I just kind of wish that they would just leave this whole situation alone, because again, I don't believe it. And that's period. I think that when you've been dating for somebody for a year, and granted they are grown, and maybe that's just how they want to keep it. I mean, I just feel like you throwing around this person in our faces that's allegedly just a friend with benefits. It's just, it's just, it's just, I just don't, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it for one single second. I'm just not. So anyway, I wish they would stop trying to shove it down our throats, because to be honest with you, it just gives scheme. So Candace is in her car on the phone with her mom. We do learn that she had her first mammogram, and there appears to be some lymph nodes there. And she is concerned because she has a history in her family of breast cancer. Another situation that I feel like is good for women to hear, and good for men to also hear, so that they have a better understanding of how these things works, and how better perhaps to support their women. And we learned that Candace is meeting with Ineka at Miss Toya's. Have you guys ever been to Miss Toya's if you live here in the district? I think it was New Year's Eve with my cousin and had brunch there. The food is pretty good. Interesting drinks. I mean, it was good. It was good food. The lamb chops which Aneka had were actually really, really, really good. So I can definitely advise that. Um, they recap Austin and Nneka comments about being sad about her about Candace and Robin not being able to connect. And Candace says, well, I'm fiery and Nneka, you seem to be fiery as well. Okay. And Nneka says that, she never intended to have any public conversations with Wendy. And I'm like, but you ain't tried to have no private conversations with her either. So I don't know. So Candace is like, well, you called her a B. And if every time somebody calls you a B, and that's if every time somebody says something to you and your inclination is to call them a B, and the producers are like, no, 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 ma'am. Okay. What you will not do on my watch, not on my watch, said the editor, is tell her that, because they then flash back to Candace calling the girls the B word as well. And Candace then lets Nneka know that in order for her to feel comfortable moving forward with her, she wants to see if Nneka could have a conversation with Wendy. I would imagine that is because Candace and Wendy both know that they are the two cast members who are on the outs with the queen bee and her hench person. And I only call Robin her hench person because that is how Robin carries herself. I enjoy Robin much more when she's on her own. Much more. Even in context of her going out with Wendy. But anyway, I digress because that will never change. Okay? I could scream it from the rooftops as much as I want. It will not change. So forgive me for even going there. Nneka feels like if Wendy wasn't in the equation, that she and Candace would be closer. And then they bond over, trying to have a child and IVF. And, for Candace, she didn't realize how similar or how parallel their lives were running. And so she is hopeful that Wendy won't be offended by them developing a friendship. And then they discuss Karen's event as everyone is going to be all together. As Mia is getting her makeup put on, we get another breadcrumb that she has perhaps experienced some form of intimate assault or abuse. And she's got the anxiety over some unresolved trauma that she's yet to share with everyone. Now, at Karen's event, all the ladies arrive, they bring their, gently used clothes or whatever. And, Karen is happy that everybody showed up for her and showed out. And she gives her speech and the singer performs. And then as we go through a couple of the ladies, it's interesting to hear that several of them have experienced intimate, assault or, behave, some type of, something like that, right? Trying to be sensitive to how I frame it on, on these platforms. So, and it definitely makes me view. I'm beginning to have an interesting view of how women could potentially view men, and it's making me also look at men in general in a very different light. As much as I've been doing these, recapping these shows, and just even existing in the world, it just really it really is it's interesting to me to see or to understand the barbaric nature with which some men end up treating women or even each other. It's very interesting to me and very disheartening. And to hear that this is so prevalent is also very disheartening as well. And it just makes me sick, it really does. But anyway, Mia ends up walking out and Ashley goes to check on her at the bathroom, which is when we get this interesting revelation from Mia that what she experienced, she seems to insinuate. Let me put the alleged badge up here. She seems to insinuate that this was a boyfriend of Jacqueline's that did something to her. Now, was that what you gathered from that conversation? I mean, we didn't get much intel, but it sounded like She blamed Jacqueline for leaving her in a situation with Jacqueline's boyfriend, and then something bad happened. And thus, as a result, she has always held that resentment against Jacqueline for leaving her there. And now she feels bad because she realizes that that resentment has caused her to treat Jacqueline poorly. Jacqueline, whom have we seen Jacqueline this season yet? And so I just kind of feel like, with the Mia stuff, and I said this earlier, that we are getting story that is told and not shown. If you know that, I don't know. I guess I question storytelling now in a greater way, in a much more I got a closer eye on how stories are told on this particular show in general, because I'm like, I would have put this together a little differently if we knew that this revelation was going to come about, right? I would have wanted to see more of this either last season or this season, and have Jacqueline be more a part of her story. But there's no time because I'm assuming that there are 8 cast members and we focus so much on a shrine. Anyway, she says that Jacqueline trusted her boyfriend. So that's when I wrote it was the boyfriend. And then, at the end, when they all corral back around, for the ending of the event, Candace wants to know if Mia's okay. And Mia doesn't really go into any details. She's kind of cagey about it. And Giselle also talks to the founder, I guess, or the head person of PAVE about tips that she can give her daughter, to be aware of as she ventures off to college. So there you have it. I mean, that was the episode. I would love to know what your thoughts on it. Did you pick up the same things I picked up on? And how did you feel about the episode overall? With that being said, we will definitely be back because we also need to talk about Married to Medicine and the Toya of it all, as well as Phaedra's contributions to the show. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. That will be coming up shortly. But with that being said, I will catch you all in the next video.
So, Desiree Davenport, what are you hoping to accomplish with this show?
Honestly, I've lost everything in the most horrible way possible. And listen, I want it all back. I'm willing to build it piece by piece, and I mean brick by brick.
Oh, honey, she is done. I bet you a Birkin she doesn't last all season with us. Just watch.
I'm Misha Hill, and I'd like to consider myself the matriarch of this dynamic group of ladies. I mean, someone has to keep them under control.
I'm Davita Delaney.
I mean, I think I could teach these ladies a thing or two about how to get and keep a good man.
They said she was a gold digger. She ain't hear that from me.
I'm just really looking forward to being surrounded by other empowering bosses.
Yes, I know exactly what she's doing. And if she keep playing in my face, I'm gonna have to let her off her dirty little secrets just like she did to me. And I'm not playing.
Let's get this straight. If I brought you into this circle, I just as easily can take you out. She ain't running nothing over here, okay? She needs to be worried about running that household and worried about why that husband of hers is never at home.
Oh, hell.
Ooh, child, this is about to be a mess.
Oh my God, I hate mess. What in the world did I get myself into?